Tutorial, what I'm going to do is build a simple application that calls and gets an RSS data. Basically, we are calling a URL. It's going to give us an RSS feed, and I'm going to go through this process of how to do that. Basically, there's one button. When I click on it, you see it. What it'll do is it'll fire off a number of methods that they need to be implemented, and I'm going to put some log files in it. Here we go, and it's going to call these methods. It's going to log to see what sequence they are being called. Then finally it's going to put in response string. This is the RSS data. So basically what I started was I built an application, a simple single view application, and I take the header file, view controller A. In the header file, specify that it implements NSURL connection delegate method. I'm going to show you how to build this a button and its click event. I'm going to define a property NS mutable data. It's going to be mutable data. It's going to hold the RSS feed as it comes back. So basically, I'm going to take the iPhone storyboard, show me a drag a round rectangle, double click and change its name, and then open the click right here to say open the assistant editor as I've been doing all along. Click this button right there, drag the touch up inside, and as I drag and drop it, I'll call it get RSS on click. I'll create a stub here. Switch over to viewcontroller.m file and start implementing those methods. Now the methods, at this point I don't need this storyboard. I'm going to minimize that. I don't need this. I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to look at the, so in the view controller I'm going to implement methods for the NS URL connection. Now how do I know which methods to implement? I'm going to have to type them in, and these are the ones. Their names are listed right here. Connection, they all start with connection. Connection did finish loading. We'll send request redirect response, and here are the names. You can read them. Basically what I'm going to do is I go to the vcontroller.m file, hold down the option key, and then hover over NSURL connection. Holding down the option key, hovering over turns into a question mark. I click it. This thing pops up. I say declared. Where is this declared in? Click this header file, and when it opens it up, here are all the, this is the interface, and these are all the method declarations. I can copy them and then paste them in the .m file, viewcontroller.m file. That's how I got save time. This is a technique to save time. So at this point I'm going to open them up. I'm going to close this part. It's not gonna do that. I'm just gonna drag it. So that's how I got all of these methods in there. So let me explain these methods that there are. First of all, I have the on-click button for that event. So every method I start with a nslog file, add %s. I've explained it in an earlier tutorials. What that means is just gonna, this is a placeholder, and get RSS on click. It'll just display it right here in the console, so I know how, a good debugging technique. Create an instance of NSURL request called request, NSURL request. These are tongue twisters. Request with URL, and within it I'm gonna create a NSURL. It's a, from here to there, using NSURL, URL with string, add percent HTTP RSS CNN com RSS CNN top stories RSS. So this is where CNN keeps their top stories RSS feed. So basically, if you are working on anything, you can just copy it and change this part right there, HTTP part. Cache policy, what is it going to be? NSURL request use protocol cache policy. Timeout is about 30 seconds. It'll wait, unless if the server doesn't respond for 30 seconds, it's going to time out. Then I create an NSURL connection called connection, and it goes like this: NSURL connection alloc init with request. Just the one I created up there, it has which URL to call. Delegate self. When this thing connection fires up, it's going to have to call different methods. Where is it going to look for those particular delegate methods that I was talking about earlier that I got from .h file? Self means those methods are going to be right in here, right there, down there. They're defined. We're going to define them in this file right there later on here. So if I check if connection is open, then I'm going to say self.response data is take NSMutable data, call the method data on it, and that will be a string, the RSS feed. Otherwise, log a method connection failed. So now I need to implement some of the methods right here when I said self. Methods for delegate methods for NSURL connection. That's one of them. Connection will send request, redirect response. When you call a web service, HTTP, it may redirect. So we gotta be ready for that. So that's what it does. Logs a method, returns a request. So that'll handle redirection. Next one is connection. Did receive authentication challenge. Sometimes it may. This example is simple. It does not. If it does, we're going to have to handle it in here. Create a certificate for authentication, create a user and password, and send it back. Connection did cancel authentication. So that'll be the handling of if I cancel the authentication. Of course, things aren't going to go right. But this example is simple. It does not ask for authentication. Next one is connection did receive response. Very important one. I'm going to log the name of the method. Then I'm going to show expected length, %qi, response, expected content length. Next one, I'm going to log text encoding, response, text encoding name. Then I'm going to say self response data set length 0. So in this method, did receive response, I'm going to have to, it just responded back and it said, how long the content is going to be, what the encoding type is going to be. Next one is connection did receive data. That's a very important one. Now it's going to start sending in the URL I call is going to start sending a little bit chunks, little pieces back to me. And this is the method where I'm going to get them. And I'm going to log it down and say self respond data, append data, data. A little piece, I'm going to keep appending it to response data that I declared earlier. That's the importance of that one. There we go. I'm going to keep appending it. And that's what's going on over here, you see. Many of them, little pieces of response, server sending responses, little pieces back. And I'm going to keep appending them. Build a big one right there. We'll cached response. What I'm going to do with it, just return. That's all it does. A lot of methods don't do much. Here, this is the most important one right there. Connection did finish loading. That's another more important one. Log the name of the method. Response string is response data, encoding, and as you had a UTF-8 string encoding, they'll take the response data, turn it into a string. I'm going to log it out. That's what spits this one out. See how it says response string. Connection failed with error. If I get an error in the connection, this is going to fire up. So you see what I did before. I click it, response redirect, did receive response, expected length is -1, text encoding UTF-8, did receive data, getting little pieces over many times, a big file, cache policy, did finish loading, and in it I write response string is this one, XML blah blah blah, RSS it has all the top stories, and that's how I got a hold of the RSS file right there. So basically in this one, this could be a template. When I call another RSS feed, I can take the same program and just change this URL and I would get it. Next I'm going to implement parse it, actually go over how to what to do with this RSS feed. I'm going to have to parse it. I'm going to have to look at it, format it, get a little bit more better understanding of what's in it, and I will go over it next. I'm going to explain how to parse an XML. The XML, the RSS feed was in XML format, and I got it. Now I'm gonna parse it and load it up into an array in a form that I can work with and attach it to a table view navigator, for example. So first of all, in the header file, I'm going to specify NSXML parser delegate protocol needs to be implemented. Step 2, I'm going to go to the .m file for this .h file and implement the methods specified in that delegate. I have already done that here. Another way would be to, they are all right here, the ones that start with parser. Another way to see them is to look at this area right here, symbol navigator. And all the ones that start with parse are the ones that are going to be needed. So first, for example, if I click here, it'll highlight that method for me. So first of all is the parser did end element. Actually, if we start, they are not in the order that they would occur. First of all, there would be, if an error was found, this method is implemented. Parse error, parser. Here it says it better right there. Parser. Parse error occurred. I'm going to handle, find out, display an error message, alert view. The other one is when it starts to read document. The first one is that it's going to start to read document. So this ought to be a method for that, did start document. If I want to do something here, when the document is being read, I will write some code here. I just display a method. When the whole XML has been read, it'll fire an event saying, okay, I'm done with reading the document, which is right here. For example, I'm just stopping the activity indicator and logging some message and reload the table. These are some of the logical things that you would do. Now, there are two other more important methods. When it starts to read an element, it's going to fire a method. This one, parser did start element. The other one is when it ends to read an element, and this is where they will do some magic in here. And the third one is found characters. When it starts to read an element, we'll do something. When it starts to read something in that element, characters found, it's going to fire an event, and we can do something we want to do. And then it ends reading an element. It's going to do something, and we're going to harness these three and put in some logic. So going back here to the view controller.h, I'm going to specify some variables. Current element, string, ns mutable string, current title, current date, current summary, current link, and an ns mutable array, stories, ns xml parser called RSS parser, and a dictionary, ns mutable dictionary called item. Now the relationship of these you will see in a second when I see you visually. ns stories will have all the stories in the XML. Each story will be a dictionary item, and each item will have different key value pairs. One would be current title, current date, current summary, and current link. Maybe I'm going to show it in debugger, it'll make more sense. In the M file, of course, you can synthesize those variables here. Now, what do I do when an element starts? When it starts to read an element, I say if the element name is item, I am going to set my variable name. I'm going to take my item, which was a dictionary type, and set an object in it, current title, to the no, sorry, this is the end element. We want to go to did start element first of all. If it's equal to item, then what you do is you create a new item, initialize a new item, initial an ns mutable dictionary, ns mutable string, current title, current date, current summary, current link. So I reinitialize them, start a clean slate. Now when I find characters, I'm going to do some magic in here. If it is equal to title, I'm going to say the current title variable is append string to it, what's been passed into this method. As is reading characters, they could be one or something else. And as you see, when it does start, I also do one more thing. When it starts to read an element, I take the current element, I set it to the name of the element. So when it fires the found characters method, I know what the current element being read is. I know what the string being read is. So I say, okay, if the current element name is title, current title is this. Next time it's going to find, a link element, and it's going to fire this method. And I would know if the current element is link, then current link is set to that string. So this is a little bit complicated. If you can wrap your head around it, you would be fine. Same thing if the current element is publication date, you set current date equal to. That's the only complication that's in there. Found characters, when it did end an element, when it ends reading an element. If the element name is item, I take the item dictionary object and set the current title uh, value in it as the current title, link for key link as the current link, or summary as the current summary. And we're going to see in debugger how it looks. And then to the stories array, I'm going to add the object item and use the copy method, because we are reusing it over and over again, so we don't want to little, that's something to understand over here. If I don't copy it, if it's pointing to it by reference, they all be the same. So this is a must to copy it. It's going to copy, it's going to leave the item alone, it's going to make a copy of it and put it in the stories array. So next time I'm going to reuse item, it's going to have a different value. If I don't copy it, they'll all be the same. Just hold that thought, maybe in the debugger it'll make more sense. And did end document, I explained that before. Now I'm going to run this application. Okay, so I ran this application. It's going to hit did start an element, and it's going to tell me which element am I reading. Okay, it's reading the RSS element, and we don't need that's what the if statement is for. If element name is item, then do something. So I'm going to just let it go until it stops at, okay, found characters, and we aren't really interested in that area. Neither are we interested in the end element until we are reading the item. So we're gonna let it go. Here we go. Now the element being read is item. So if that is equal to item, in it create an NS mutable dictionary. I am going to make this a little bit taller. Step over it. You see, here's the item, NS mutable dictionary. Current title, current summary, current link. They have been initialized. Just to now at this point, I want to do my breakpoint right here. You see, here we go. Did oh no, want to do it all over again. Here we go. Next one. Found characters. Now when it find characters, what are we going to do? Okay, if the current element is item, it's none of those, so I didn't do anything. Okay, this time it's title. Okay, if it's title, take the current title and make it whatever it is, but don't touch the other variables. Next time it's reading title again, so it's going through different ones and it's reading title. And let's set a breakpoint over here and try to visualize it. Okay, now it ended reading the item element. Now at this point, what's going on? Things are changing right here. You see, item element, if you can rewind your video, you will see the item element had nothing, and I filled it 1 0 1 2 3. The first one is title, second one is summary, third one is link, fourth one is date. A key value pair. An item is a mutable dictionary. A dictionary actually has key value pairs. So here they are, 1 2 3 4 pairs. Now what am I going to do with this item? I'm going to copy it into stories. See, stories already had one because I ran it first time. This is the second time it's run. So now stories add object item copy. Now it was 0 before, now it's 1. And what does it have? It has this item element in it. Item item element has the key value pairs, and stories has item elements, 1 to n number of them, and it'll just keep going 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep building them. And that's the basic structure. You have a mutable array of dictionaries, and that can be used to bind to a table view. So the XML has been read, converted into this format so we can work with it. Usually that iOS developers, in the previous examples and all, we can't bind XML to it, but we took the XML, brought it into this format. Stories array has items dictionary, and now we will be able to work with it. And if I let it go, it has been bound to the table. The logic then is the same as binding to any table view. So there you have it, how to parse XML, how to get our XML up through RSS and parse it and put it in a format that usually iOS developers can work with.